Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast. Today we have amazing company Glider, and we have amazing founders Brian and John, who are going to take us through this deep dive journey on their exciting phase on how they started. What is Glider currently doing, and what's the vision roadmap over there. So glad to have you guys here on the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So Brian and John, let's quickly start with the background. How was your Web3 journey initially? And probably a part of that question is the current glider, positioning. I mean, a lot of time depends on what journey you have been through. How did that encapsulate, and what was that aha moment where you felt, okay, this is the one that we are going after?
Yeah, I'll start here. So I first touched crypto in 2015, which is crazy to think that it's been 10 years. I was at MIT at the time, and they ran a semi-famous experiment where they gave everyone a third of a Bitcoin. And so in 2015, a third of a Bitcoin was $100. Things have really changed since then. And this was a whole different era. Like I had a wallet that was on Circle. This is when Circle did custody. And DEXs weren't really a thing. Coinbase had a exchange called GDAX, which was free to trade. Coinbase wasn't charging fees back then. It was truly the Wild West. And so that piqued my curiosity. I was like, okay, what is this actually going to be? Fast forward like 4 or 5 years later, this is like 2019, 2020. We're seeing the growth of Ethereum. I had a MetaMask account, and a Phantom account was coming along soon after that for Solana, but it was really Ethereum in 2019, 2020. And this was the era of like the start of NFTs, right? And so people were like, what are these things? Why are we paying so much money for PFPs? I had worked with a number of like art dealers in New York City who were trying to be at the edge of what art could be on chain. A lot of that has obviously gone to nothing now, but so it was NFTs, and then it was DeFi summer. So DeFi summer, obviously people were farming. I remember rates that were like 10,000% APY, like absolutely crazy, right? There's like no way this was ever going to happen. And then at that time, I was working at a trading firm called XTX Markets. We traded a little bit of crypto, mostly focused on equities and FX and futures. So crypto is a very small piece of that. And I said to myself, like, I've got all these friends who are starting crypto startups. It's time to get into crypto full time. And so I joined a company called Anchorage, which is a big institutional custodian in the US. And 2.5 years later, I met John. And so that sort of brings us up to where we are today. I think through that process, I've seen all the road bumps or like speed bumps, right? Like, back in 2018, 2019, you would click, like send on MetaMask, and you would wait like 10 seconds and you'd be like, holy crap, like, did I mess up? Or, you'd be on OpenSea and you would be trying to buy something, and the gas price would be, like twice as much as the NFT. Like so much has changed in these 10 years that now we're at a really good place. But yeah, that's how I got into it. We've tried to solve a lot of that with Glider. John has his own very interesting story on this too, so I'll pass it to him.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Going way back, I mean, I think I was always dabbling in Bitcoin and just like permissionless like settlement and exchange of value. I think that was really what captivated me and got me enamored by the industry. Like I was working at a fintech previously to that, and I saw like ACH files and money movement and how it was just like updating SQL and rows and tables. And so my friend had pointed me to the Ethereum ICO and basically like early versions of Solidity, even just like I remember the Mist browser, for example. Like I remember playing with that. Like I fell in love with Ethereum and just like programmable money at the time. And so I went looking for where can I work in this space? What is even viable to who will pay me to do this stuff? And so back then there was like this is 2017, 2018, 2019 kind of era. Is like a handful of companies like Augur, Maker, Zero X, DY, early DYDX, Dharma Wallet. Like, so I joined Zero X, and because I was building on top of them at the time, I built one of the first relayers that they were doing way back when. I joined there, and then so I just went fully on chain. I was like, I have to just be at the core of this. Like, to me, it's all about swap, settlement, exchange of value, tokenizing. And so joined ZeroX, who's still one of the better like crypto shops out there. They do swap and settlement and all sorts of different like transfers of value effectively. And so built out back then DEX aggregators weren't really a thing, so we built out Xerox API. Then I helped built out Matcha, so that's a consumer-facing decentralized exchange. That went pretty well, and that taught me a lot about building products inside of crypto and how to kind of position them for users, build them in a usable way. We did some of the first like true like user studies in terms of DEX interaction and crypto exchange. So like we learned a lot. We interviewed whales, we interviewed retail, like everything in between. And so learned a lot, saw the rise of DeFi summer, L2s, you name it. So it's been really exciting to see kind of that full arc of crypto and DeFi. From there, I started a product studio with the designer at Matcha at the time. So Patrick and I created a little product studio because consumer products were really in demand in crypto. And so we wanted to help everybody kind of and share what we learned building kind of like a successful consumer product in crypto. And so we did that for a while. We worked with a lot of VCs, founders. We'd embed with teams and show them, hey, like here's how you build the product side. You have awesome Solidity, you have awesome smart contracts, but let's make those usable and get in front of users effectively. From there, I joined Anagram. So that is a crypto kind of VC holding company where we like it's more than just a check. It's like we Anagram kind of comes into your team and embeds and builds stuff with you. And so like that dovetailed really nicely with my experience as well. I got to invest a little bit more. I got to really, really deeply embed with founders. And so I kept learning, what they're running into, their problems, just like still where are the pain points of DeFi. And then just kind of bringing us up to now, like I was like, we can go through like kind of the history of Glider and the idea maze behind it, but I was always noodling on this idea of swaps have kind of reached this local maximum, right? Like I'd been building swaps really early on, right? Like you have the input, output, and a swap button, right? Like and it fundamentally hasn't changed since like really early Uniswap days, right? And so like even if you layer a DEX aggregator on top, even if you layer Intense on top, RFQ, you name it, it's still fundamentally like the same experience. And so I had always been searching for this next kind of step function of application utility and like value and like just user experience. And so it was basically impossible for a while. Like the idea of automation and permissionless automation and non-custodial automation, like to me, that's the next wave of application functionality, right? It's not just I have to be there to click the button. It's we have programmable money. Why aren't things doing this for me? Like that's the whole point of programmable money. Like I shouldn't have to be in my seat. I shouldn't have to wake up at 3 a.m. to do the thing I know I want to do ahead of time anyways. So, for like the why now in crypto is really important. And all of this stuff was pretty much impossible, either financially, technically, you name it. Like early on, Ethereum was expensive. I mean, this was even like before we had like EIP 712 to like sign things proper. We didn't have off-chain permissions yet. Like session keys and permissions are just coming into kind of the limelight now. L2s weren't available. When they were available, the call data was too expensive. We fixed that. AA came out finally, so you can delegate off access to your accounts in really secure ways. Now we have like 7702 and like, so you can see how like as a product engineer, these things are layering on really nicely. And so that brings us up to now where you can build these really, really cool product experiences that you couldn't have even a year ago, even 2 years ago, right? And so all these ideas I had in my head are now able to be built out. And so that kind of brings us up to like where we kicked off like Glider and the idea maze, at least just to provide some context of like, what took so long to get an application like this out is like we didn't have the building blocks yet. And so as a product engineer, you sit there and you're like, okay, any day now we'll have what I need. And finally, I feel like we're in a place where we can build some really cool stuff.
Amazing. I think I was just chatting with Abha, who leads, the Base Hive, program. And I think she was very impressed with, sort of the automation because she got intro to crypto, like a few months back.
Right.
And I think I mean, seeing the Web 2 world where a lot of this automation is already there, right? I mean, you don't
Right.
want your money to sit idle. There are tens of different waves. There is so much background education. I mean, people have literally, I mean, we were just chatting internally as well about gold, asset class, it's rising. There
Mhm.
are like tons of things. I mean, just one asset and, it's like foreground. People know exactly what's going to happen, what drives, what now. I mean, it's just enormous. But I
Yeah.
think for crypto, this was lacking, part a lot. And I think what Glider does it is like automating strategies, to get your money on flow and, have that, I mean, good returns, or I would say good strategy where you don't feel that it's just lying there, and you don't have that sort of feeling that, hey, it's not in hands of someone, crazy people, where I fear that this money will be lost or something like that. So this is where the second question that we want to deep dive is, when you initially started, like, the user feedback, right? Because of these automation strategies, I'm pretty sure you would have got, like, tons and tons of feedback that, hey, I want my automated strategy to do here. I want to go into, say, meme season. If it is exploding, I want to go here and stuff. So how was the product, designed from that perspective? And what are the upcoming roadmaps, specifically from the product standpoint, so that I, as a user, is really feels into the safe hand that, okay, Glider is there. I think these things are going. I'm getting industry standard returns. I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I think I'm going to steal a quote from a friend at Coinbase, and I think this pertains to like what you said earlier. It's like, you don't need to know how the oven works to use the oven. And I think this is so beautiful. Like, you truly don't need to know how the piping and how the gas gets to the stove or in the oven. Like, it's the same thing with crypto, right? Like, let's take the traditional finance markets, right? You don't need to understand how money that I send to you via bank wire is getting there. We just know that it gets there, right? You're not thinking about Swift or stock certificates if you're buying stocks or anything like that. And now it should be the same experience in DeFi, right? So like, you shouldn't have to think about bridging or signing or gas, because these are the layers that can be abstracted away from the end user and should never have to be thought about. On your feedback side, we're still getting feedback. I mean, this is like continuous process, right? So it's not like it stops. We get feedback, every single day, from beta tests, from feedback forms that we have on our website, from integrators that want to do interesting things. I think John could touch on this more, but like, our opinion is that we don't want to make anything that is too complicated for users, right? So there are a lot of tools out there that are automating your LP positions in Uniswap, for example. Like, anything that is that sophisticated, we're happy to integrate it into Glider, or take a very like non-parameterized like view of it. So basically, like, this is your one option. If you want to use it, you can use it. But otherwise, like, we are on the world of the mindset where you should be building more towards mass audiences instead of going deeper and deeper and deeper into this like incredibly intricate crypto world. And so, I mean, other things in that space, right, be like crypto options and things like that. Like, yes, we could do those things with Glider, but we'd rather just build out an application that people are going to use long term and integrate Glider into other applications that are going to expand the pie of crypto and not just fight over the couple people, a couple million that already have crypto. But John can give a sort of a technical view there too on how he came to this view.
Yeah, so we like relentlessly just like listen to users, do a lot of user testing. I've seen a lot of user testing feedback this week, for example, in our internal chats. And so, we say, how are people using crypto right now? How do they want to use crypto? Who's the next marginal user of crypto? Like, how do we build for someone that the N+1 user that's about to join, or like, what is that activation energy for them to join crypto? Like, and I found that just talking to people, like, and it's the recurring theme is, I like crypto, I'm crypto curious, I just don't have time. I like to manage all this stuff. I don't know where to buy all these things. I just want to sell at certain points. I want to do X. They have some they have some defined goals of sorts. And to me, it's like, how can we enable that especially like someone, Brian kind of touched on this, but your user persona has to be not someone extremely technical, because they're going to write their own like stuff. They probably have their own trading systems. They have their own solver, like a searcher. Like there's this really long right tail of super sophisticated users. I don't think that's who we're targeting right now. Like we're happy to support them and they can use Glider, especially on the API side. But to me, like the crypto pie is about to grow so much that I want to think about who's currently on like crypto Twitter that's interested, curious, it's playing around daily, and then who's that next marginal user. So that's kind of like the user persona I think about, and Brian and I think about as we're like designing this stuff. And then in terms of functionality and roadmap, it's like we listen to users. They say, I'm on Dex Screener. I'm like, awesome. So the way we built Glider is it's a extensible system that's block based. So we can write these blocks that just represent either primitives in crypto or primitives around crypto. And so you can say, hey, I want, basically, I want to match how people are using crypto today and be able to automate it. So we would watch them, and they go on Dex Screener, they set filters, they have these certain things, they say between these, market caps, and then we watch them, and we watch them buy things. We learn when they sell. So we try to recreate that behavior. And so we put it, for example, a Dex Screener block into Glider. So you can use the same exact parameters that you use on Dex Screener in Glider, and it'll automatically, buy for you, sell, and then, you want logic. We have if else statements. If you have like ideas around when to sell, we have a lot of different. Usually we listen to users. They say, hey, I want to reach for this thing. It doesn't exist in Glider. We say, awesome, let's build a block for it. Because the way we built their system, we can just pull in an API. We can just pull in a on-chain primitive and just integrate it with the system. So just trying to make it easier for users. Like to me, like this is where I want users to spend their time and their mental energy, and just like say, I want these things. Don't worry about how they happen. Just the same way you like type in a URL into the search bar, and you don't think about TLS or HTTP or SSL or all these protocols. It just happens, right? Like it's just like, I want to go to this thing. I want this thing. To me, that's where everything's kind of headed.
Yeah, we need to meet users where they are today, right? We're not building things that we think are going to be like years from now. It's like there are very clear things that people want to do. And so, just to tack on some other things, right? Like each of these blocks can be things like we could do any type of data provider block. So like Kaido, for example, if a token reaches X mindshare on Kaido, buy that token, or any other parameter that any of these other data providers provide. It could be Parsec, it could be Arkham. Lending is coming very soon. And so how do you always lend into the highest yielding vaults, right? These are things that people want. You don't have to automatically manage it, or like manually manage it rather, right? It'll actually move your assets for you. And then chain expansion, right? So we're on Base today. We're going to turn on a bunch of other chains in the near future. I won't tell you which one's which, but we've got some cool plans there where you can actually, we hope, extract away like even what are networks the end user eventually, right? Like the end user doesn't really care if the token's on Solana, if it's on ETH, or if it's on Base.
Just think of tokens. I want to buy this thing. Whether it's a CA on Solana or an address on Ethereum. Like to me, it's like the user just wants to acquire this asset, and so making that as simple as and then being able to swap out of it. I think the whole end-to-end life cycle being managed for you is really where it starts. Like the wow moments start happening. It's not just, oh, I can buy this thing and put it into a yield farm or something like that. Like you're going to see a lot of apps like that, and I think that's fine. But where the real step function of value is I can automatically buy this thing. If there's a yield farm for it, I'll put it in there, and then on top of that, I'll sell it when ready, and it automatically withdraw, sell it, and then put it back into USDC or whatever. Like to me, that's where that full life cycle. That's where that programmable money that we talk about so often is like. That's where you start really seeing it.
Yeah, I think the approach to sort of target the non-technical side of Web3 and people who are really just not bothered about finding out how things work, but just the end user functionality and making that easier is such a, honestly, like a brilliant approach, being somebody who comes like from the non-technical background of things and is relatively new to Web3. an easy interface is, I think, the primary thing a user would look for, right? You don't want to know how things exactly work, but how you can interact with it and make it easier. So, speaking of the experience for non-technical users using Glider, how do you think that Glider's no-code approach really empowers these non-tech users, especially on Base?
Yeah, we've got so much cooking here. So the version that you can see of Glider today is not as simple as it could be, right? We're continuously stripping away some of the complexities. And so, I mean, they're sort of easiest things, right? Like we can do embedded wallets, for example, log in with Google, log in with X, right? So that's coming. On and off ramps. So, one of our investors is MoonPay. And so having easy ways to actually like buy and sell into the crypto without really, without having to go from Coinbase or Binance to a non-custodial or to a MetaMask wallet, self-custodial wallet, and then trade. That's a process that most people should never have to experience. On top of that, we have some really cool stuff around natural language, NLP coming. And I think that's where we get a big unlock in terms of what Glider can provide. So, the blocks that John was speaking about before, they're really cool and they're really programmable, but you can also create them via natural language. And so that allows people to actually say what they want, review what they want, and then let it glide. Like that is the cool part, right? The problem with a lot of these like current NLP solutions is that they do very simple things, and those simple things have finality, which is scary. So like bridge my assets to this chain or send money to this person. That is incredibly scary because it has to get it right, right? If it doesn't get it right, you've lost that money. And it's already pretty easy, right? To like go on to MetaMask, type in an address and hit send. So I don't really buy into the fact that that improves user experience. I'm just not there for it. Like even when you're sending like bank wires and Venmo or Revolut to people, like you're not asking Siri to do that or asking Alexa or asking Google Home to do that, right? That's just not a thing. And so having that extra step of like review is a really cool way to be like, I went from an idea to a portfolio or strategy to something that is now running on chain. That's going to be a big unlock. So that's coming soon-ish. And you can imagine too, like, again, Glider is a platform. And so you can take this and you can embed it into your own agent. So let's say there is an agent that's managing portfolios, right? Let's say they have some alpha. They can still use Glider's underlying tooling to create these portfolios. And we're starting to see more of that. It's harder to do when you want to build everything from scratch, where you're like, okay, like my portfolio needs to have X, Y, and Z, it needs to lend into this protocol, it needs to stake on that protocol. Like we've provided a nice little abstraction for people to actually make that available to their users. And their real focus, right, is on distribution and letting people know about this agent. It's not so much about building a lot of the underlying infrastructure. They're just grabbing for whatever is available, which Glider can provide.
And just to dovetail on that, Brian, like I think for me the end goal, like the true like vision eventually is like you describing a trading idea and just in natural language even. Just like I have this thesis of these set of companies or these things or like we'll do these things and like then you just hit enter. Glider reviews it via LLM, sets up the strategy for you, and you hit go. You say this looks good, go. Like to me, I want like taking someone's idea and being able to execute it, fully managed life cycle, not just like one time like bridge or do this thing, this buy. Like those one-offs, I don't think they're as valuable as people think. Just like the same way you don't type in, you don't say, hey, Venmo, send $20 to Brian. You literally just pop it open, hit 20 and hit send. Like to me, like those are like more like one-off actions. But where the real programmable money comes in is I have an idea and then somehow it like basically Glider finds a way to execute on your idea and make it a reality. Like that's what I fundamentally want to do with Glider at the end of the day. And there's ways to like, it's all iterative, right? But like to me, that's the real goal is like we take what's in your brain and make it a reality in terms of trading execution.
Nice. I want to come to the next $1 million question. when is this going live? I mean, I had a chance, to go through the early access, and I loved it. I mean, the pre-built portfolio and then fine tuning into each. I mean, it covers like the like a non guy who's not into trading, who just wants to give his assets, and be like as chill as possible, to someone who is actually, hardcore trader, who goes into these multiple timing frequency strategies and stuff. I love the interface, but yeah, I mean, viewers would love to, know when they can get hands on, when they can start, automating their strategies.
Yeah, we're still iterating here. We really want there to be a magical moment when people use Glider. An example of like what that magical moment would be is like, back in the day, maybe when you first took your first Uber or Lyft or, whatever car share service you have in whatever country, like you hopped out of the car and you didn't have to pay anything, right? Like, I think that was an aha moment for a lot of people. We would like that similar aha moment feeling on Glider where you're like, wow, that was easy, right?
Internally we call it like time to aha moment. Like to me, like that should be one of the, like if you're ever building a consumer product, like your time to wow moment should be it. Like pull it forward as soon as possible. And so like, we're working on a lot of that. Like I think we're pretty close. We've been redoing our onboarding, so you see that aha moment immediately, and then you buy in, and then you keep going, and the feedback loops are there where you want to continue building things. So soon though, soon.
Coming
Yeah.
sooner than you expect, I think.
Stay tuned on the Twitter, the communications, and I think you'll see some cool stuff sooner than later.
If you're not on the waitlist yet, do join the waitlist. We've had nearly 200,000 now people join the waitlist, so it's been a bit overwhelming, honestly. And sorry, the talk. Follow us on X. It's glider_fi. You can join our Telegram and Discord as well. We're constantly chatting about what people are doing, and we're letting people off the waitlist every single day in the hundreds. And so, once you join, you shouldn't have to wait too long to get off. It's a bit of a manual process that we're running, but it's for good reason.
Would also, just as people use the app, would love to get feedback. The little feedback button in the app, we listen to every little thing people write. We personally onboard a lot of folks as well, just to see, like, we go through it, the fresh eyes. Like we take feedback every single week. We take like new user feedback and the feedback in the app, and just listen to you. So as you get invited and start using it, like we are all ears and would love to hear more from just like you all, any of the viewers. But yeah, super excited.
Yeah, definitely sounds something I can't wait to try, and I'm sure, given that 200,000, I think you said, those are incredible numbers. So, also something we wanted to discuss, and congratulations on is about your huge fundraise that happened recently, the $4 million fundraise. And so we just wanted to know how you went about securing this fundraise, and given that Hive is an accelerator for early stage founders, if you had any advice to share with somebody who's not there yet about how to go about fundraising and just introing with VCs, and any insight you could share on that.
Yeah, there's the process of fundraising takes, let's call it 2 to 3 times longer than you expect. Always. And so a couple things that I think we learned through this first process was, one, you should have all your material ready to start, right? So like you need to have a deck. You probably need to have some Notion page or Google Doc to share, like FAQs, things like that. Like investors will ask about that. On top of that, it's nice to have a demo and a working app. And so, John would share our very early version of Glider, which they can see and feel, and that's much more real. And then the advice that I would give too is start out with like friendly VCs that maybe you don't care if you get a check from them or not, or maybe you talk to other founders and have you pitch them your company, because you get so much better, like every single time you do it. You realize what sticks, what doesn't stick, what works, what doesn't work.
I'm just like, if you're still giving the same pitch that you started with, that you're like, a month or two in, you're still giving the same pitch, chances are you're not listening to feedback from VCs, users, you name it, because what you start with and how you sell it, and it may be like you still build the same underlying thing, but when you go to talk about it and the vision of it, you'll learn very quickly what people connect with and what they find valuable in the pitch and in the materials, and you lean more in on that. And then the next pitch you go and you say, oh, these people were interested in this. And you kind of, we started with one pitch, honestly. We started with a very, we even started with like almost 100% consumer focused. And like, even though we were building APIs and B2C stuff in the background, B2B stuff in the background, like we realized, oh, like there's a way to kind of share like the real holistic view of what we're building here. And we just weren't communicating that very well in the beginning. Like if I just had to like critique myself, I guess. But the thing is, like, it's okay to change up your pitch. It's okay to like just like get feedback and be really honest and like, okay, this stuff's not landing with people. This is, let's expand that and talk about that more. Like, you should always be evaluating that. I wouldn't be like, oh, that VC just didn't get it. Like, it's like, okay, but why? And then ask like why like 3 more times when you start answering that. And so then you get the real feedback. And yeah, like it's very, very normal to your pitch, the first pitch you ever give, and like 2 months later, it looked completely different. And that's okay. And funny enough, you're probably building the same thing under the hood. But that's just, raising, venture capital and getting people to, commit and trust you,
Is there anything you would do differently, or is there like a common mistake you see so many like early founders making that
think-
I
they
think
probably
Brian, I probably might have something similar. You first, though. Yeah.
Well, I think timing is always important too.
Timing,
So don't try to raise before a US presidential election, which is going to dramatically change how crypto is thought about in a country. Holidays are tough as well. And then there's always cycles in crypto that can ebb or flow with time. Other things, again, I think just to tack on to what John said, like some VCs care about different things than other VCs. And so like we kept a very organized log of like, who do we talk to? What did they say? What were they interested in? Because what they might be interested in is very different from like, what maybe a different investor might be interested in. And you have to remember that to go back and be like, okay, this is what they really keyed in on. This is what made their eyes open. What else, John?
and yeah, that's not just to sell to VCs, but in fact, like it's just like it's a really useful exercise for founders in general. It's just like, hey, like it's not that VCs only care about these things. It's more just like that is your audience, and you need to learn like what are they indexing on? How do they, even your users, like just like your users pick up on certain things you may not, like same thing, and how you write copywriting to your users changes over time as well, and how you talk about your product and present it. So it's just be flexible, be nimble, and listen to feedback, like just relentlessly, I think. And then, if you find things aren't working, like there's always pivots. There's always like the Glider idea maze was long, and I'll write a long blog post about it one day. Like what we started with pre-raising. Eventually we got to some confidence level of like, okay, this is a product we want to raise for. But before that, we went through the idea maze for a while. And so that's okay too. Like figure out what works, get in front of users, they'll tear it apart, build it back up in a different way. Like just keep narrowing in and don't give up. Like if you have a hunch on something, chances are something's there. It's just about sussing out and what it is exactly.
I would also say too, like warm intros are really helpful. And so if you need a warm intro to a VC, go look at companies they've invested in and try to reach out to those founders. And then those founders can give warm intros. I do this all the time. Like new companies want to come and talk to me for whatever reason, and they want to integrate with Glider. And they say, oh, like, I'd be curious. We're also thinking about fundraising. Would you be able to warm intro us to, any one of our investors? And I'm never going to say no to that, right? Like I will give the VC the option whether or not they want to be connected, but there's no reason not to on my side. So, and that helps, right? Like cold DM, cold email. I don't know the success rate on those.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, a lot of the founders, would definitely get like a lot of help. And then probably if we have another session for Hive, I think we should definitely, we'll ping you guys and get you over there. I think founders would love to understand the experience. Obviously, everyone has sort of the different journey depending on what they're building. But I think getting this basic insights and, it just boosts up the confidence and it makes the journey easier. Thanks for sharing, your story. Coming to the final part of it, it's about the great mission of Glider, right? I mean, like portfolio automation, and I think we should record one more podcast post you guys launch it, because I think we should do like a deep dive. What are the people? What different crazy strategies are they using?
Yeah.
you know what's the background of this? Are they repeating it? Because there's so much data of all these different trading strategies, so much to learn. And I think, a lot of newcomer people can adjust depending on their risk rate. They can do it and see it. But overall, say 3 years down the line or something, what is like, where does Glider wants to go? How does you envision a new Web3 user who is coming in, or an existing Web3 user? How are you planning to serve, these users?
The big picture here, right, is truly programmable finance, where Glider is this communication layer, or sort of network of nodes that are operating independently and trustlessly and permissionlessly, to move money around in ways that people want, right? Like we're quite centralized today. There is an arc with every product to go more and more and more decentralized. It'll take time, but it should be a living, breathing protocol on its own, right? Like just like Uniswap protocol just lives and breathes on its own. The Uniswap front end is just one use of it. I think we have some interesting ideas on how we get Glider to that point. But that's how I see it. Like it's something that just doesn't necessarily need a like core team driver, but that there is people who are continuing to maintain it independently, build into it, they get the value from it, and it just lives. Now, is that going to happen in 3 years? I don't know about timing. You never know about timing in crypto. So that's the bigger long-term vision, though. And yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Glider becomes a full-blown network with a full-blown kind of like incentive, like alignment of like the different actors within this, and decentralized, and there's paths towards that. And so for me, it's like building a great product and then decentralizing out the pieces that really matter, and then decentralizing the rest eventually. And so I'm excited to do that as well. I think like right now we're like, let's build the thing people want, and then make sure it's like as we go, we figure out where do people actually care about decentralization, right? Like, because it may not be where you expect it. I've been surprised many a times with how people want to use things like preferred, like they kind of share their behaviors on like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't expect that. And so I think just relentlessly meet users where they're at, build for the next N+1 user, and we're gonna figure it out from there. But we have a lot of cool plans in the meantime, for sure.
So it's a really good piece of advice for founders building in Web3 is that start as centralized as possible. Like decentralization for decentralization's sake never goes well, right? And so if you can start centralized, you can very nimbly adjust, find product market fit, and then eventually decentralize. But if you start to centralize and suddenly you need to make a governance vote for whatever reason to make any change, well, that's going to take forever. We know how long governance, like votes and progress takes. So always start and discover product market fits in a very centralized manner.
You got to make sure people want the app before I've done the other side where I started decentralized, and it turns out we built the wrong thing, but you committed way too, like you're 2 audits in, and you just blown a year of time. Like the only caveat I'd add to Brian's thing, just as an engineer, I'd say don't box yourself into a technical corner in terms of centralization. Like have paths to decentralize, right? Like be able to add more validators, be able to add maybe an AVS kind of structure or incentive system, or like I think there's a lot more levers now, but yeah, like I'd say start where you can rapidly iterate and find PMF. Like if that happens to be decentralized, like awesome. Like Mega ETH may be a world where you can actually write just like Solidity on the fly and adjust it. But yeah, just PMF, PMF and distribution, like focus on those things and everything gets a lot easier.
Awesome. I think there's so much tons of other questions that we have, but I think in interest of time, we will, wrap it up. But I mean, I love this conversation, and I think post the product launch, I think let's do, one more where we actually screen share and see different strategies, and let all traders, gain the kind of momentum. And I see so much of passion and energy that you guys have put into this product. Love the design. I mean, whoever internally also we were discussing, I think the website design looks, really, really slick. It looks like something premium is coming, which is more user friendly. At the same time, it ensures, business sort of thing. So I'm excited, when this product goes out to see, what other users say. And definitely internally, we are all going to try and, automate our portfolios strategy, and then hopefully earn, a lot of other alphas. But thank you guys for coming on this podcast, sharing all of your journeys. And we wish the best of luck for Glide.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for inviting us. Been fun to chat. Thank you.
We'll be back.
Thank you for taking out the time.